They told my doctor I was showing signs of severe dementia. By the time I came home from surgery, my own son had legal control of everything I owned. Then I walked into his business meeting with a lawyer and 3 years of financial records. Let me back up. My name's Thomas. I'm 67 years old, retired from the railroad after 42 years. Not rich, but comfortable. I had my house paid off, about $180,000 in savings and investments, and my pension. My wife Sarah passed 6 years ago, cancer. After that, it was just me and my son, Derek. Derek's 43. Got his MBA from a decent school, worked in corporate finance. Or at least, that's what I thought. Turns out he'd been bouncing between jobs for years, each one ending badly. But he never told me, just kept showing up to Sunday dinners in nice suits, talking about deals and opportunities. I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there. But you don't want to believe your own kid would do something like that. You know? It started 3 years ago. Small things, at first. Derek began visiting more often. At first, I thought it was nice. He'd come by twice a week, help me with yard work, fix things around the house. He'd insist on going grocery shopping with me. "Dad, you don't need to carry those heavy bags at your age," he'd say. He started asking about my medications, my doctor appointments, my bills. "Just want to make sure you're okay, Dad," he'd tell me. "Living alone at your age, we need to be careful." I didn't think anything of it. Seemed like normal concern from a son about his aging father. Then came the comments. Subtle at first. "Dad, you told me that story already. Last week. Remember? You sure about that? I think you're mixing things up. Did you forget we had plans today?" Thing is, I hadn't forgotten anything. I'd never told him that story. We never had plans. But he'd say it so casually, so certain, that I'd start questioning myself. He did it in front of other people too. At church, at the diner, anywhere we went together. He'd make little comments. "Dad's having one of his confused days. You'll have to forgive him. His memory isn't what it used to be." I started noticing people looking at me differently. Like I was fragile. Like I might break. Then my neighbor, Margaret, stopped me one day. "Thomas, Derek told me you've been leaving the stove on. Are you okay? Do you need help?" I'd never left the stove on. Not once. That's when I started to realize something was wrong. Not with me. With what Derek was doing. But before I could figure out what to do about it, I had to have surgery. Gallbladder removal. Nothing major. But at my age, any surgery is serious. It was supposed to be a simple procedure. 2 days in the hospital, a week or 2 of recovery at home. Derek insisted on being my emergency contact. He'd drive me to the hospital, handle the paperwork. Everything. I didn't think twice about it. He was my son. My only family. I went in on a Tuesday morning. The surgery went fine. They kept me 2 nights for observation, just like they said. I was groggy from the anesthesia and pain medication, sleeping most of the time. On Thursday afternoon, while I was still in the hospital, a woman I'd never seen before came into my room, professional looking, carrying a briefcase. She said her name was Dr. Patricia Hendricks, and she was a geriatric psychiatrist. I was confused. I don't need a psychiatrist. I had gallbladder surgery. She smiled that patient smile doctors give you when they think you're not quite right. "Mr. Brennan, I'm here at your son's request. He's very concerned about some cognitive issues you've been experiencing." "What cognitive issues?" "I'm fine." She pulled out a clipboard. "According to Derek, you've been experiencing significant memory loss, confusion, forgetting to take medications, leaving appliances on, getting lost in familiar places." Every word out of her mouth was a lie, but she said it like it was fact, like Derek had given her a whole file on me. "That's not true. None of that is true." She wrote something down. "Mr. Brennan, it's very common for patients to be unaware of their cognitive decline. That's actually one of the symptoms." I felt my chest tightening. "I want to see my son. He's speaking with your medical team right now. He's very worried about your ability to live independently." That's when I understood. This wasn't concern. This was a plan. But I was stuck in that hospital bed, still recovering from surgery. medication in my system. And this psychiatrist was writing everything down, like I was proving Derek's point by denying it. She asked me a bunch of questions. What year was it? Who was the president? Could I count backward from 100 by sevens? I answered everything correctly, but she kept writing, kept nodding like she was humoring me. Before she left, she said, "We'll be recommending a cognitive assessment. Your son wants to make sure you have the support you need." I was discharged Friday afternoon. Derek picked me up, all smiles and concern. "How you feeling, Dad? Let's get you home and resting." When we got to my house, I immediately knew something was wrong. Papers were missing from my desk. My filing cabinet had been gone through. The spare key I kept in my bedroom drawer was gone. "Derek, did you move my things?" He guided me to the couch, gentle but firm. "Dad, you need to rest. You just had surgery. Don't worry about anything." "I'm not worried. I'm asking where my papers are." "What papers, Dad?" "My bank statements, my investment records, my will." He smiled. "They're safe. I've been helping organize your files. You had things scattered everywhere. Some of them were years old. I've got everything in order now. I want them back." "Dad, you're tired. The anesthesia can make people confused for a few days. Let's talk about this when you're feeling better." Over the next week, while I was recovering at home, Derek was there constantly. "Just making sure you're okay, Dad." He'd cook meals, do laundry, handle my mail before I could get to it. I felt like I was being watched, managed. Then, exactly 2 weeks after my surgery, Derek showed up with 2 people I'd never met, a lawyer and a social worker. "Dad, we need to talk," Derek said. His voice was serious now, not the fake cheerful tone he'd been using. "I've been really worried about you." "We all have." The lawyer introduced himself. "Richard something." He had papers. "Mr. Brennan. Based on the psychiatric evaluation and observations from your family and neighbors, we believe you may need some assistance managing your affairs. Your son has petitioned for limited guardianship." "Guardianship? I don't need a guardian. I'm perfectly capable." The social worker, a woman named Linda, spoke up. "Mr. Brennan, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Many seniors need help as they age. This is just a precaution to protect you." Derek leaned forward. "Dad, you've been forgetting things. The doctor said you showed signs of cognitive decline. I'm worried about you making financial decisions that could hurt you." "What doctor? That psychiatrist you sent while I was drugged up in the hospital?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Brennan, Dr. Hendricks is a respected geriatric psychiatrist. Her evaluation, combined with documented incidents of confusion and memory loss, support the need for intervention." "What documented incidents?" "There aren't any incidents." Derek pulled out papers. "Dad, there are. Margaret next door reported you left your front door wide open all night 3 weeks ago. The bank called me because you tried to withdraw $10,000 in cash and couldn't explain why. Your doctor's office said you missed 2 appointments and claimed you never scheduled them. Every single one was a lie, but he had paperwork, names, dates, details. I felt like the room was spinning, and it wasn't from the surgery. I want my own lawyer." Richard smiled. "Of course, that's your right. But Mr. Brennan, legal proceedings can be expensive and stressful. Your son is proposing a very limited guardianship, just to help manage your finances and major decisions. You'd still have autonomy over your day-to-day life. I don't want him managing anything." Derek's face hardened, just for a second. Then the concerned son mask came back. "Dad, I'm trying to help you. If you fight this, the court might order a full evaluation. They might decide you need more supervision, not less. Maybe even assisted living." It was a threat. "Crystal, clear." The social worker jumped in. "Mr. Brennan, why don't you take a few days to think about it? Talk to Derek. This doesn't have to be adversarial." They left their papers and left. I sat in my living room, hands shaking. Not from weakness, from rage. My son was trying to declare me incompetent, to take control of everything I'd spent 42 years building, and he'd been planning it for years. That night, I didn't sleep. I went through everything I could find. What little Derek had left, anyway. I realized he'd been systematically removing documents for months. During all those helpful visits, he'd been stealing my records, but he didn't know about my safe deposit box at the bank. Sarah and I had kept one for years. Important documents, backup records, things we didn't want in the house. Friday morning, soon as the bank opened, I was there. I told them I needed to access my box. The clerk looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Brennan, I'm going to need to check with the manager." "Why?" "It's my box." She disappeared into the back. 5 minutes later, the manager came out. "Mr. Brennan, there's been a flag placed on your account. Your son Derek submitted documentation indicating you're under psychiatric care for cognitive decline. We're required to notify him of any unusual activity." "Unusual activity? Accessing my own safe deposit box? I'm sorry. It's our policy when a vulnerability flag is placed. It's for your protection. I don't need protection from myself. I need access to my property." She looked genuinely sympathetic. "I can allow the access, but I am required to call your son." "Fine. Call him." I got into my box. Everything was still there. Thank God. Copies of my investment statements, my property deed, my will, insurance policies, everything. I made copies of everything, right there at the bank. Took it all with me. By the time I got home, Derek's car was in my driveway. He was angry. Really angry. The mask was slipping. "Dad, what were you doing at the bank?" They called me worried. "You can't just what? Access my own safe deposit box? You're not thinking clearly. You're going to make a mistake, move money around, get confused." "I'm not confused, Derek. I'm very clear. You've been lying about me. To doctors, to neighbors, to the bank. You're trying to steal from me." His face went cold. "Steal? Dad, I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me from what?" "From yourself. You're getting old. You're not as sharp as you think. You need help, and you're too stubborn to admit it. What I need is for my son to stop lying about me. I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth about what I've observed. If you can't see it, that's part of the problem." We stared at each other. My son, my only child, and I barely recognized him. "You need to leave," I said, quietly. "Dad, get out of my house." He grabbed his jacket. At the door, he turned back. "I filed the petition, Dad. The hearing is in 3 weeks. I'm trying to do this the easy way. But if you fight me, I'll do what I have to do to protect you, even if you hate me for it." After he left, I sat there for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and called the one person I knew I could trust, Robert Pacheco. I'd worked with him for 30 years on the railroad. He'd retired 5 years before I did. Became a private investigator. We'd stayed in touch. Poker games, baseball, the occasional beer. "Tommy, long time no hear. What's going on?" I told him everything. All of it. There was a long silence. Then, "That son of a bitch. Tommy, you need a lawyer. A good one. I need evidence first. He's got fake reports, fake witnesses. I need to prove he's lying. I can help with that. Let me make some calls." Robert called me back 3 hours later. "I got you a meeting Monday morning. Attorney named Sarah Chen, elder law specialist. She's good, Tommy. Really good." That weekend was the longest of my life. I kept expecting Derek to show up, or the police, or someone to tell me I was being taken somewhere. But Monday came, and I met Sarah Chen. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, sharp as a tack. She listened to everything, took notes, asked questions. "Mr. Brennan, this is financial exploitation. Textbook case. But proving it is going to require evidence that his claims about your competency are false. I have my medical records. I've been seeing the same doctor for 20 years. I'll take any test they want. That's good. We'll need that. But we also need to discredit his witnesses and documentation. Can you account for the incidents he's claiming?" I pulled out my calendar. I keep a detailed daily log. Always have. Appointments, errands, phone calls, everything. The night he says I left my door open, I was at my poker game. Robert and 4 other guys can confirm I was there until 11, and I locked my door when I left at 6. Got home at 11:30. The bank withdrawal? Never happened. I can prove I haven't withdrawn more than 300 cash at a time in 5 years. My bank statements show it. The missed doctor appointments? Never scheduled them in the first place. My doctor's office can confirm. Sarah smiled. He got sloppy. Probably thought you wouldn't fight back, wouldn't have the proof. So what do? First, we get you evaluated. Independent psychiatrist, cognitive testing, the works. We prove you're competent. Then we fight the guardianship petition. And Mr. Brennan, when we're done fighting that, we're going after him for attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person. That's a felony. Over the next 2 weeks, I did more tests than I'd ever done in my life. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, psychiatric evaluations, all of it showing the same thing. I was perfectly fine. Robert did some digging too. Found out Derek had been fired from his last 3 jobs. Financial irregularities. One company almost pressed charges. He found out Derek was in debt. Serious debt. Credit cards maxed out. Mortgage payments behind. He'd been living beyond his means for years, and he'd been planning this for at least 18 months. The neighbor? Margaret? Derek had been feeding her stories about me for over a year. The bank flag? He'd submitted a request 9 months ago, right after sweet-talking them about his concerns. The psychiatrist who evaluated me in the hospital? Derek had paid her $5,000. Robert found the check. The hearing came on a Wednesday. Derek showed up with his lawyer, looking confident. He had his papers, his witnesses lined up, his fake documentation. He thought he'd already won. Then I walked in with Sarah, Robert, and 3 bankers, boxes full of evidence. Derek's face went white. The hearing took 4 hours. Sarah dismantled every single claim. She had my medical records going back 20 years. Clean bill of health. She had my calendar proving Derek's incidents never happened. She had testimony from my poker buddies, my neighbors, my actual doctor. She had the bank records showing Derek had flagged my account not out of concern, but as part of a systematic plan to isolate me financially. And then came the bombshell. Robert had been doing more than just investigating Derek's finances. He'd been investigating Derek's life. Turns out my son had done this before. Not to me. To his ex-wife's grandmother. 5 years ago. He'd tried to get himself appointed guardian. Got caught. The family dropped it to avoid scandal. The judge's face got harder and harder as the evidence piled up. When it was Derek's turn, his lawyer tried. He really did. But when Sarah cross-examined the psychiatrist Derek had paid, she fell apart. Admitted she'd spent less than 30 minutes with me, never reviewed my actual medical history, relied entirely on Derek's claims. The petition was denied. Immediately. Then the judge did something I didn't expect. Mr. Brennan, the younger, he said, looking at Derek. I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office. What you attempted here appears to be attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person, fraud, and possibly several other charges. I suggest you get yourself a very good criminal attorney. Derek tried to say something, but his lawyer shut him down. As we left the courtroom, Derek grabbed my arm. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I needed help. I was desperate. I looked at him. My son, 43 years old, and I felt nothing but sadness. You were desperate. So you tried to have me declared incompetent? To steal everything I worked for? I wasn't going to steal it. I just needed to borrow. By lying to doctors? To judges? To everyone? He had tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. I walked away. The DA's office did press charges. Derek was arrested 3 weeks later. The trial took 8 months. He was convicted on 3 counts. Attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person, fraud, and filing false reports. The judge gave him 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and ordered him to pay restitution for my legal fees and the costs of all those medical evaluations he forced me to get. Total came to about $47,000. I haven't spoken to him since the trial. He writes letters from prison. I don't read them. People ask me if I'm angry. If I hate my son, I don't hate him. But I don't forgive him either. You can't do what he did to someone and call it love. Call it concern. Call it help. He tried to erase me while I was still alive. Tried to make everyone believe I was incompetent, confused, losing my mind. He was willing to lock me in that lie for the rest of my life, if it meant getting access to my money. That's not desperation. That's cruelty. I'm 70 now. 3 years since all of this happened. I sold my house last year. Too many bad memories. Got a nice condo near Robert and his wife. We still play poker every Friday. I volunteer now, at the senior center. I help other elderly folks understand their rights, recognize the signs of financial abuse. You'd be surprised how common it is. Family members, caregivers, people who are supposed to protect you, trying to take everything you have. I tell them my story, all of it. I tell them to keep records, to trust their gut when something feels wrong, to not be afraid to fight back. Because here's what I learned. Being old doesn't mean being helpless. Being someone's parent doesn't mean trusting them blindly. And sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones you love the most. I still have that calendar, the one that proved Derek was lying. I keep it in my desk drawer. Sometimes I flip through it, look at the notes I made. Poker night, home by 11:30, doctor appointment, everything fine, bank deposit, $200. Simple things, normal life. But those simple notes saved everything I had. Sarah Chen still checks in on me, calls every few months. How you doing, Thomas? Any problems? No problems. I learned my lesson. I changed my will. Everything goes to a scholarship fund now. Kids who want to work on the railroad, like I did. Derek will get nothing from me. Not now. Not ever. Some people say that's harsh. That family is family. That I should forgive. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. And trust, once broken like that, doesn't come back. Derek gets out of prison next year. I don't know what he'll do, where he'll go. Part of me wonders if he'll try to contact me. Part of me hopes he doesn't, because I meant what I said in that courtroom, even though I said it silently. You're not my son anymore. You lost that right when you tried to steal my life. I'm okay with that. Better than okay. I'm 70 years old. I've got my health, my friends, my freedom, and every dollar I earned. And that's more than Derek ever gave me credit for having the strength to fight for.